Good afternoon, everyone. Well, welcome back. Once again, my name is Ramli John, and I am honored to introduce here Samantha Goldman. She is the CMO at Mural. That's a visual collaboration platform. You can use it, actually use it at AppKeys for brainstorming, mapping out user journey, many different use cases. She was also previously head of business marketing at Lyft pre-IPO. So in terms of product-led, when we chatted, you like, oh, I don't do product, like you're product-led. But Mural is actually making a transition into a journey towards product-led sales. So we're going to be talking about their transition from what their go-to-market previously to what it is now. I'm going to ask some questions for like about 20 minutes, but I want to get some questions from the audience right after. So I think Samantha, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Excited to be here.
I guess first things that we want to learn a little bit about is what the journey of that buying journey for Mural previously, because like I've always thought of Mural as like you can sign up for free, you can buy it on, but like you actually mentioned that there's this transition that is happening even at this moment.
Yeah, so I laugh. Like when I first started looking at Mural and learning about it, I saw this big call to action on the website that said free forever. That we will always be free. And I was like, wait, I'm coming in to run marketing at this company. What do we mean that we're always going to be free, that we're making this promise to our members, to our customers out there? And we had this massive disconnect between the self-service and then I'd say like product-led growth and then what sales was doing. So self-service would go and say, I'm gonna bring on people for free, right? We're gonna bring on new people. Then we're going to grow those people within the product, have them share, go viral within the company, and then we're gonna come at you with an enterprise plan. And we fell for a lot of the pitfalls that you heard Kyle talk about earlier on sales reaching out to end users, right? And we said, we just sold you, we gave you a product, you signed up, we said it's always free, but now I want you to pay for this if you wanna do X, Y, Z, right? And then we all know that's not creating a good experience there. And then we ran another pitfall that Ramli talked about where sales would immediately call, right? So you're using the product, you sign up, you're getting that brainstorm session ready to go, getting your Mural going for that brainstorm session and following the template. And before you even have that session, our signals were telling us that person's ready to talk to sales, right? But you haven't actually conducted the session. So you haven't gotten the full value out of the product yet. You haven't become loved. You haven't wanted to create a second Mural. And so I've now been at the company, I think 6 months now, and we are really restructuring the company and restructuring our go-to-market and really focusing on a continuum. We want to bring somebody through from self-service. We want you to start using the product, get to use the product, and become viral within your organization, and then work with the department leader to show how you can get more value with a contract for the entire organization, and then eventually getting to the entire company. One thing that's really important that we've recognized as we've been on this journey, and want to give this to you guys in case you guys are on this journey as well, is the importance of IT and making sure you're bringing IT and that procurement team along and not trying to come in and surprise them. You don't want to have that short-term growth right away and then IT finds out about it and IT's like, whoa, what is all this that's going on? I was at the Gartner conference a few weeks ago, and Gartner was actually talking about how one of the trends that they saw was during the pandemic, all of these SaaS companies were able to quickly grow within companies, and IT basically had so many other things that they were worrying about that they just let this growth of like self-service, product-led growth, companies coming in and spreading within the company. And now that we're starting to get back to business as usual, IT is back and people are going back to IT for help. And people are reaching out to IT and IT is becoming more influential again within the organization. And so when we think about our own models, we need to make sure that we're not building out plans that are just gonna surprise them in the end.
That makes a ton of sense, and I think you're really hitting the point where finding that sweet spot where like marketing, sales, and CS working together to try to create that seamless experience is super critical in this product-led go-to-market motion. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like how you were talking about before, where like it seemed like things are not interconnected, and now you're like going
Yeah,
on
so
that.
like previously, sales would be going after a totally different audience than marketing was going after, and so marketing would be was driving people in to use the product from a self-service standpoint, and those didn't match up with the account sales was going after from a named account standpoint. And so now we're looking at, we have our focus, we have the accounts that we're looking at, and we have different strategies for how we get to team leaders, how we get to end users, how we get to that department head, how we reach IT, how we reach out to the entire buying committee, all connected and together. So it's really important that it's not a sales play or a marketing play, but that you have a go-to-market play. And that we have our go-to-market strategy that sales, product, marketing are all working on hand in hand. And then we have the plays that we all work on. And yes, there's different drivers for each of those plays, but they're go-to-market plays, and we're all connected on the same strategy.
You said something there that I want to double click on like you get the team leader, you get the head of IT, and I think the challenge sometimes is how how do you get the team leader, because like you got the end user, but getting them excited enough to pitch it up is the whole bottoms up approach of PLG is what about. I'm curious, like how has your team been approaching that, getting the team leader when the end user is the one that's signed up?
It's different needs, right? So first of all, like somebody's coming into our funnel because they have a problem, right? They're looking to do a brainstorming session, or they're doing a big engineering use cases retros, right? And so they're like, I need to do this session. Wish I had a great template to use this with. So they're finding a template. They're coming into Mural with that template. Then they're bringing in other people to work on with that. And so for us, when we think of the team leader, it's not always that I'm the budget holder of a team and I'm the manager of the team, but I'm leading a team, usually a cross-functional team, through a project. And so we're bringing that person in. Then what we want to see is we want to bring multiple people in, ideally in the same department if we're targeting correctly, bringing multiple people in with all different use cases that they're all working on, and then we're able to go to that department leader and really showcase how we've added value to their organization. But what's also really important there is that we have an understanding of that persona, and that we understand like let's say the engineering leader. It's not at a Fortune 1000 company, it's not going to be the CTO, right? So let's say it's an engineering leader who has a 50 to 100 person team. We need to understand what their pain points are. We need to understand what drives them, what's keeping them up at night, and then be able to tie into what we're solving right there for their employees to the message or to the problem that we're ultimately going to solve for them. For us, that usually comes down to hybrid teams. And so a massive problem that we're solving at the department leader or division leader is they have these distributed teams that are all over the place and their teams aren't connecting. And so we really go into a lot more of the emotional there prior to the rational when we're talking to that department leader. And then I'd say that team leader is much more of like the rational. You have a need right now and this is how you're going to solve it.
I love what you said there, and you're like really talking about like the use case or the jobs to be done. Like what is that? What are they trying to use? What is their goal with Mural? And if it's collaboration, then really tapping into that. I want to like really dig deeper into like what is the tipping point when like sales make the outreach? Is it like like oh they got enough? Like what does that look like?
So to be totally honest, we're still testing a lot of that out. But for us, like it's when you have a certain number of people and then a mix of people and teams using you across a department, and then also having a specific mix of paid and unpaid teams. So, right, we can't come in into a company that's everyone's using us for free, everyone's getting the benefit of using us, and be like, hey, now we want to slap an enterprise deal on this and pay for it. So we want to really make sure that you have that good mix, and that also the reason to pay, especially when we get into pricing and plans, that the reason to now make somebody pay for something, they're getting added value that's outside of just like honestly at this point for the enterprise, security, privacy settings are all table stakes, right? You need that from a free standpoint. And so we can, it used to be, I'd say probably like 5 years ago for an enterprise, you could, and some products are still doing that today, you could say, get our enterprise plan, it's enhanced privacy and security, but when it comes down to it, if you want the enterprise to use you early on, they need to be able to check those boxes that this is secure, where I'm putting my company's information, and most people are smart enough to that today to know that before they sign up for any product. So you really need to make sure that it's adding value, and it is where a lot of the integrations come into play, and those stickier things to be part of their day-to-day workflows.
What I just heard there is, and I think Kyle mentioned this, is what users care about is not necessarily what the buyer cares about.
Yes.
Because the buyer might care about security and integrations. As a user of Mural, I'm just like, I just want to brainstorm.
Yeah. It's really interesting. The buyer is going to care. We surveyed buyers about, I guess, a year ago now, but I think it's still pretty relevant. Enterprise buyers care, number one, about, is this going to be easy and simple for my employees to use, right? Are they going to be able to, do I need to do training for this new tool, or can people just pick this up and just use it? And then number two is privacy and security. And does this have everything we need to make sure that our data and our information is safe? And I think with AI especially, it's becoming even more and more important with having all of the different tools now integrate AI and have an AI component to it. It's like, who is holding that information, and where is that going, and what are they doing with that?
What's really also interesting about what you mentioned there about really tapping into the pain point of buyer. We actually did a study with our own data at AppQ, so we found that it takes about 3 to 4 people from the same company to close a deal.
That's interesting.
And are you finding like a similar thing where like there's like this tipping point where like you have enough like contacts, I guess, like you got the buyer, you got the end user, you got maybe like tech or IT who's like putting it all together.
Yeah, I'd say like the buying committee for collaboration tools is becoming even just like more and more complicated. You have the department leaders who are your champions and whose teams have been using them, and then as you said, you have IT and procurement. Then usually at a lot of companies, and they either sit within the strategy office or they're sitting in the IT office. You also have this digital workplace transformation leader, long title, who's really tasked at finding the solutions for the workplace of the future of work, who are like tasked at identifying all the new tools that people need. So I would say for us, it's probably about 5 to 8 different people in the buying committee, but we can't go to that buying committee until you have teams using you, until you have departments using you, until you're in core workflows within those groups. And so for us, when we think about pricing and plans, we don't want to have, and I heard this earlier, I think in Kyle's talk as well, like this is the enterprise plan and it's over here, and here's the self-service plan. We need to be bringing them through from a continuum. And so it's not that once the sales team reaches out to sell to the entire company, that the plan drastically changes, but that there's step-ups within from when you're self-service to when you have a team that you've set up, so like a small team under 10 people, to when we've brought in a salesperson to now talk to you and help coach you along the process and help you get probably more of those integrations implemented. For us, that's actually where the enterprise plan starts. It could be an enterprise plan for like a 15-person, 30-person team. But we're stepping you through to get to the whole company.
Let's dig into that pricing. I know before we do, this is the final question before I take some questions from the audience. So start thinking about questions so that we get some questions from the audience. You're talking about the pricing and plan there a little bit already, and when we were preparing for this fireside chat, you mentioned that you're really focusing on simplifying the pricing plan. It's such a big part of product led. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like maybe there's some like lessons learned where like it got too complicated, where like people had a hard time actually buying it, not because of the product friction, but because of pricing or plan.
Yeah, I'd
issue.
say it's like more like, so one thing that we recognized, and hopefully there's nobody here that's taking notes, I'm gonna don't share this externally, but we recognized that we were actually cutting off our own growth. So we were going in and we were consolidating teams too quickly, right? So sales was coming in, they were seeing there's a few teams that are using Mural. Great, let's now go and get a company admin set up for this account and put you all on one account. Once that company admin is set up, that person's now the one budget holder. So most large Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, the budgets are pocketed across departments, divisions, and if you now get one person, anytime somebody new tries to join the company, they're automatically, in the way our product was set up, they're automatically put into that team, that company's domain, right? Because as many of us, we use the email domains to assign people to their company. And so we actually overcomplicated it just for ourselves by creating a structure that did it that way and incentivizing the sales team for the wrong thing, right? We were looking at short-term growth versus long-term. And so now really taking that step back, and as I said before, truly looking at the continuum of somebody and looking at a team with the goal of what do we need to do to get viral within the organization quickly? How can we make sure that we're adding value to get multiple teams to use us? So like multiple teams, you want to find the use cases that multiple teams can use together, right? And help promote and get more people to understand those use cases, to now getting value for the department leader. And then how do we make sure that we're getting value for the entire company? So like as an example, raise your hand here if you have people in your company that some people have Slack and some people have email and some people get their cell phones paid for. No, if you want to communicate, everybody needs Slack. Everybody needs email. Everybody needs cell phones. And so we can't have collaboration tools where it's like only a segment of the company is allowed to use something. And so really making sure that we can showcase that value at those different levels.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samantha.